So yesterday I was at Starbucks and I had the weirdest conversation with this very charismatic guy, and I want to talk about it. I had been drinking my coffee and reading my book, and I was just about to leave, and as I got up, I moved the chair a little bit, and there was a guy sitting near me. He was sitting at a different angle, at a 90-degree angle from me, so he wasn't looking at me. He was looking sideways at his laptop, but because I bumped the chair slightly as I was leaving, and I said, "Excuse me," he heard it, and he said, "Oh, is that an American accent? Where are you from? Blah blah." And he started talking to me, and we started chatting, and he seemed like a really nice guy. He was kind of cute actually, and we were talking for a little bit, and he was talking. First of all, he was talking really fast. I mean, he was uttering 100 words per minute. And after a very short while, I started having certain suspicions about this guy. And those suspicions were aroused because I once had met a sociopath, a real sociopath, and I'm gonna make a video about this. And just within a few minutes of talking to this guy, a lot of the red flags popped up that were caused by certain characteristics that I remember from the original sociopath that I had met. Now, I'm not saying this guy's a sociopath, and I'm not gonna say his name because you could Google him. I don't want to tarnish anybody's name. But I want to talk about certain characteristics and how to spot a sociopath. And I've gotten pretty good at it because of many years of studying and reading that I've been doing on this subject. So the first red flag was the fact that he said he had no cash on him. Now, he said something like, "Oh, I had an issue with my cash card and it got messed up and I couldn't get my cash today, and I'm in a bind." Now, I understand that this can happen to anyone, and I myself have been in situations where I've had no cash because maybe I entered my PIN incorrectly, or maybe I lost my card. He didn't say he lost his card. He gave this ambiguous reason as to why he doesn't have any cash. He just said, "Oh, my cash card got messed up." What does that mean? How does your ATM card get messed up? Did you cut it out by mistake? Did you damage it? Did you break it? If something concrete had happened to his card, he would have just said, "Oh, I accidentally cut out my debit card and I can't get money out," or "I lost my card," or "My dog chewed my card up." But he just said, "Oh no, he gave me this non-reason as to why he couldn't get cash." So that was the first red flag, okay? I know anyone can get themselves into a situation where they have no cash temporarily. I know people can lose their cards, or you can enter your PIN number 3 times incorrectly and you can't get your cash. I know it can happen to anyone, and it's probably happened to all of us at some point. What I'm saying is, people who are fraudsters and sociopaths or scammers, they very rarely have cash, okay? They operate on stolen cards or fraudulent transactions. They often have things because they're able to buy them with stolen credit cards, but they rarely have cash, okay? So this guy says, "Oh, I have no cash." And when he asked me to give him his phone number, which I did, he had a very nice phone. He had like the iPhone 8, okay? So he's got some expensive stuff, but he had no cash. Okay, that could just be a coincidence. Let's not judge him on that. I'm just saying that that's a red flag. The second thing that raised my suspicions was his ambiguous job. So when I asked, "What do you do for a living?" his answer was like 10 minutes long. He has like 5 different jobs. He's a publisher, he's a writer, he's a production director, he's a networker, he's an entrepreneur. He networks a lot. He helps people achieve their potential. I mean, okay, I know some of those things sound like real jobs. A publisher is a real job. But when I Googled him, he only published 2 books about. Those books rely on the philosophy of the law of attraction. Now, I'm very skeptical about this philosophy. I'm a very positive person. I do believe in positivity. Negativity can destroy you if you focus on it. I do believe in positive thought. But the law of attraction goes beyond that. The law of attraction says that all you have to do is just think really hard, and you're gonna make things happen magically, and things are gonna fall out of the sky for you, and everything's gonna be honky-dory. All you gotta do is just believe really, really hard. And the truth is that it's a combination. You do have to believe, you do have to try, but you also have to take action. If you don't take action, if you don't work hard, if you don't commit, things aren't just gonna happen. So yeah, so one of the things that raised my suspicion was his job, or lack of his job. I mean, he was doing everything and nothing at the same time. It's one of those stories that doesn't really give you that doesn't really give you a lot of content, a lot of concrete material. It's just a lot of fluff. And I know not everyone has a 9-to-5 office job. I don't. I quit my job, and but I've had a 9-to-5 office job for the last, I don't know, 16, 17 years, and I worked in a school before, and I've got some assets. I've got, savings. I can just say at the moment I'm not working. Another red flag that came up was where he was from. So he said he was from Chicago. And for some reason, when he pulled out his business card, he pulled out all his other paperwork. I don't know why. And there was a Polish passport there and a Polish ID card. And I'm like, okay, you're from Chicago, but you've got a Polish ID card and a Polish passport. And I didn't say it like that, but that's what I'm thinking to myself. And he must have seen me thinking that, or he must have sensed me thinking that, and he just said, "Oh yeah, my parents were Polish, so so I've got a Polish passport." And I'm like, "Okay, that's cool, that's possible." However, there was a few words he said and now I wish I'd listened closer, but there was a few words he said when he was speaking, and he was speaking very fast. There was a few words that when he spoke them, he had a slight accent. And I know everyone does that. Native speakers do that. So maybe that's not really a red flag. Maybe I'm making more of it than it is. But there was a few words that he said in a funny, slightly accented way. And when he said Polish words and Polish names of streets and people, his pronunciation was very good. Again, I suppose if his parents are Polish, that probably means that he knows some Polish. So okay, let's chalk this down as a non-issue. But I just thought it was interesting that he had all Polish paperwork and everything. Another red flag that came up was when I asked him where he was living. So he asked me where I was living, and I said, I've got family here, but I'm staying with a friend at the moment, so I could either stay here or at my sister's. And I said, where are you living? He goes, I'm hustling it. I'm like, what? He says, I'm hustling it. I said, what does that even mean? What does hustling it even mean? And he points to his little suitcase, little bag, and surely didn't have all those things. But he says, oh yeah, I'm trying to buy an apartment. And he names this expensive street. I'm trying to get an apartment there. But until all that's fixed up, I'm just, hustling it. And I'm like, okay, does that mean you're staying with friends? I didn't ask him because I didn't really care. But it sounded suspicious, and it sounded dodgy, and yeah, that was another red flag. If you're in a country, he's obviously a permanent resident here because he's got his ID card, which means he lives here, and he did tell me he's been here for 10 years. So if you've been somewhere for 10 years and you don't even have your own place, you're not even renting your own apartment, that's way suspicious. So yeah, that was another red flag. The sociopath I've met before also didn't have a place to live. He was mostly living in different hotels, using people's stolen credit card details to book himself from hotel to hotel to hotel. That's how he was living. But if you're 52 years old or whatever, and you're still staying at hostels, and you consider yourself to be a real businessman, and if you're a citizen of the country where you're living, it's like he's visiting Poland. He lives here. He's got a Polish passport. He's got a Polish ID card. So if which means he's here permanently, and he mentioned that he's been here for 10 or 12 years. So surely you would you'd be renting a place by now, or why are you still staying at hostels? It sounded really suspicious to me. Okay, so this is a little weird, but another thing that arose my suspicions was his smell. He was clean shaven, and he looked okay. He had clean hands. He wasn't a homeless person at all. But he just had a certain smell about him. I don't know how to say it. I don't want to sound xenophobic or anti-Polish, but he smelled the way he smelled the way my father used to smell. My father is a drinker and a smoker, and this guy had a little bit of that smell. I got a whiff of it when I was getting up. He didn't smell that nice. So yeah, that was another small weird thing that I noticed. Alarmed by this encounter, because the fraudster that I met, he said exactly the same things. He's like, yeah, I'm getting an apartment in Covent Garden, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. You know, I believed him right away. And that's why I don't believe this guy. Oh yeah, another thing, he took my details, which is cool, and I gave him my details willingly. And 10 minutes after leaving Starbucks, he texts right away. There's like 2 texts and 4 pictures and blessings to you and blah blah blah. And I'm like, whoa, that's quick. I mean, when I go on a date, I don't get texted that quickly. And this guy, we just had a 10-minute conversation at Starbucks, and I get all these texts from him. So I don't know. And he said he wants to get back together with me for a beer or whatever. So I'm just a little skeptical about this guy. I don't know what he wants from me. I don't think he's gay. I actually thought he was good looking, but he told me he had an ex-wife, and he mentioned some girls, some like good-looking girls. So I don't think he's gay. I'm pretty sure he's straight. So I don't know what he wants from me. And I'm really curious to meet up with him again. Oh, I almost want to study this guy. I want to check whether he's a sociopath or not. I want to test him. I want to apply the sociopath checklist on him. I want to see how many boxes he ticks. I want to ask him questions. I want to interview this guy. And he says, oh, we should get together for a beer. I'm like, sure. Just make sure that you leave your wallet. I'm going to make sure I leave my wallet at home. I'm going to make sure I leave all my cards at home. I'm only going to bring a little bit of cash for a few rounds at the bar, and that's all I'm going to bring with me. I'm not going to bring my phone. I'm not going to bring my credit cards. I'm not going to bring my